All right. Well, we've been talking about doing this for a while, and I'm not sure what is going to happen of this. Right before we hit record, we were even just saying, like, who knows what we're going to do? Who knows if this is going to be the only time we're sitting and doing it? But I'm David Coyer. That's Phil Giovanni. And we're just two guys talking about wrestling, two college buddies who like wrestling. We'll text about wrestling. Phil, you were texting me back in like June. It's just like, hey, when you have free time, let's sit down, let's watch something and break it down, or let's do fun games, stuff like that. And
Absolutely.
last night, AEW All Out 2021, it was just an absolute holy crap, what a show it was. I missed, so
Yeah.
personally, before we get in, I missed like the first two. I missed the pre-show and I missed most of the Eddie Kingston Miro match, but you were there. You
Yeah.
were there.
I
You got
was
lucky
there.
enough to be there. But
Yeah. So I just real quick. Luckily, I was able to be at the Dynamite, the Rampage, and All In, All Out, all the shows leading up. It was nice to see that little build along the way. It was exciting.
yeah, you got to see the final build. But yeah, so it's just going to be two guys talking about wrestling tonight. Who knows how long this is going to go? Who knows what we're going to discover along the way, but we're going to do this and we've been wanting to do it. So let's get going. So so let's start. I guess we'll kind of focus on you for the first little bit, because like you got to be there for the all, or not the all out, you got to be there for the Dynamite, the Rampage, and then the All Out. So Dynamite, it was when's the last time you had gone to a wrestling show? Because I know the last time you went to a wrestling show was also something AEW, and it was
Yeah.
pre-pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been, I believe, late 2019 is when I went. When I worked for the Windy City Bulls, the first time around, my boss was lucky enough to give me tickets. I was sitting in the third row. I was able to see that. So that was the last time. Was just about probably 2 years ago, almost to the date that I was last at a show. And gotta say, man, having the crowd back after watching the pandemic era and coming to see the actual live crowd, and Chicago being Chicago, I mean, everybody I've listened to talk about wrestling. I mean, fans, writers for WWE, AEW people always talk about how Chicago is one of the biggest and most passionate fan bases. And I don't know, maybe it's biased because I was there. It really, the crowd was exploding every single match, not even Punk's return, not just, these high profile matches, the mid carders, the women's division, who usually doesn't get love in WWE. The crowd was eating up every single bit of everything. It was intense. It was amazing.
I mean, I remember last. Now I think you might almost have me with live shows attended. How many live shows, like just in general, professional wrestling, how many live shows have you been to?
So I went to two Raws as a kid. I went to AEW 2 years ago. Then it would be the three this past week alone. So I'm at six total.
I mean, you basically beat me this past week. You tied me this past week. I've been to three. I've been to Elimination Chamber 2012, a Raw, I think in August of 2012, if I'm not mistaken, and then a SmackDown December 2019. All
Wow.
three in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, being just in a live crowd, it's so nice. And I fell out, and I think if I remember correctly, you kind of did too. Once the pandemic hit,
Mm-hmm.
it's. I mean, I was at the beginning. I was watching because I just kind of really gotten back into wrestling back in the fall of 2019. But I was watching at the pandemic. It's like, sweet, I have time now. Watch Monday Night Raw, AEW
Yeah.
Dynamite with NXT on Wednesdays, and then Friday Night SmackDown. And my mom hated it because she's just like, oh, why do you get the TV 3 nights a week? I'm just like, because wrestling. And
Hell yeah.
and I remember I just kind of fell out because it was just like, it just wasn't the same without fans. And then when the Thunderdome kind of came in for WWE, I was starting to watch a little bit more. Heck, even when AEW started bringing in limited fan pods, I would catch a show here or there. It still just wasn't the same for me. And then
Yeah.
when WrestleMania happened, it's just like, heck yeah, this is awesome. And then this summer, I made sure to watch the first SmackDown that had all fans, and Money in the Bank and all that kind of stuff. AEW, I still kind of fell out on. It kind of had become something that I just wasn't a fan of. I mean, I'm one to say, and we'll kick this off right away. I'm a WWE mark, like I always have been.
Mm-hmm.
I was really big on AEW when it first was about to happen, but then I kind of fell off on it. And I've always just like throughout the pandemic, I've still kind of just been a WWE mark. I'm not one of those assholes on Twitter who it's just like someone says something about AEW and I go in the comments and just rip them a new one.
Yeah.
Wrestling Twitter is the most toxic place
Yeah.
in the universe. It's terrible.
Oh yeah. It's just not fun. I mean, that's you got to really fine tune your settings to see the accounts that really are just that aren't full of hot takes, the bullshit, the competition. It just isn't about that. It's wrestling is something we just need to enjoy. It's something that's fun. It's something that doesn't need to be like you said, the toxicity. It's just unnecessary. It's stupid. I mean, again, there like I said before, there's the passion in wrestling fans, and sometimes it gets the best of us for the better or for the worse.
Yeah, and it's just like it. I personally like I'll have opinion like I'll see someone say something, it's like, okay, that kind of just sounds dumb. I'm the same way with AEW and WWE people. I'll see someone have the worst take about WWE and I want to say you're an idiot, but it's just like it's not worth it. Like it's not worth it
Yeah.
for me. But once fans started coming back, it's like there was that general excitement. And then, with everything that's been happening with WWE, all of the releases in the past year, like contract rumors, stuff like that. It's just like there was so much hype around AEW in the past couple months that I'm just like, okay. I mean, I've still followed both companies equally on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So I
Hmm.
kind of know what has been happening, but it's just like, I mean, I could tell you probably more about WWE storylines than I could AEW, just because of like, and even AEW, it's so worldwide with Impact and New Japan Pro Wrestling and those like partnerships that
Right.
it's just like there's so many people that I'm just not familiar with, which is not like it's on me. And I'm not like if we end up doing something with this podcast or something, it's like people are just going to be like, oh, he said he's a WWE mark. Oh, he doesn't know anything about AEW. Yes, I'm admitting that right now. I'm trying to get into it. You just got to put that. You got to
Exactly.
put that out there for the internet trolls.
Yeah, oh, I have no doubt about that. I mean, like, so not to get ahead of ourselves, but like, so after John Moxley's match, Minoru Suzuki came out, and I'm like, oh, I know he's a New Japan legend, and that's all about I know, and I think he's a New Japan legend. I mean, I've heard his name before a couple of times. Couldn't tell you much more than that, honestly. I didn't know anything about Satoshi Kojima. I didn't know anything about him. All I can tell you is that he put out a great match. I mean, that's just about it. Like I'm just like you. I just started getting back into AEW. I was in it for a little while during the pandemic era, fell off of it. Started watching WWE's weekly shows, every single show. Not NXT, unfortunately, the one really good show. But like so yeah, I'm fresh to this, which is great. It's coming in fresh. It's almost better. You don't have any influences from beforehand. You don't know about all these storylines. It's like, all right, let's start to see who I like, who am I interested in, who do I think is underrated, and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff.
And I mean, and the thing with us, and I mean, this is more for me. I'm not going to generalize with you, but like we obviously we were both sports broadcasting majors at Western Illinois University. I'm still a sport management grad student right now, but we like sports. Heck, you said you work for the Windy City Bulls, so like obviously we like basketball, baseball, all of that stuff. We don't always have time to sit and watch a wrestling show. Now we're both passionate about wrestling in our own ways. Now there are other people who they eat, sleep, breathe wrestling and will watch it day in and day out, every company
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. I personally just don't have time for that. I'm a student. I have a job. And then I also like watching sports, like the Milwaukee Brewers are making a really big run right now. I like watching those games. If I know it's just
Oh
a
yeah.
Friday night SmackDown or if it's an AEW Dynamite, unless I hear rumors that this might be a big Dynamite, I'm probably going to put on a Brewers game or like, Sundays if there's a pay-per-view and it's Sunday Night Football Packers games or a pay-per-view Sunday night, I'm going to be watching the Green Bay Packers. And it's just like, and so it's just,
Yeah.
it's tough. And I think that also contributed to why I kind of struggle keeping up with wrestling all the time and keeping up with all these people. I can't watch an Impact on Tuesday night. I couldn't even tell you when New Japan Pro Wrestling is on or even where I can find it. And so it's just
Yeah.
like, that's the struggle with companies like this. And that's why I almost think it's beneficial that AEW is making these partnerships with Impact and with New Japan Pro
Oh
Wrestling. I remember
yeah.
when those announcements were made during the pandemic that it's just like, okay, while I am a WWE mark and this kind of hurts WWE in a sense, it's good for pro wrestling because you get some casual fans who are just watching AEW to see John Moxley and Chris Jericho and Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. But now you get to see people like Minoru Suzuki or Satoshi Kojima and like stuff like that. And so it's just like, it's cool. And that's why I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to getting back into AEW, because there are the familiar names like Chris Jericho, who I watch for, but now I get to see these people. And like you said, you get that fresh take. It's just like, oh, Minoru Suzuki, I hear that he's good. Let me get my input on him. And it's, if I like him, I like him. If I don't, okay. Like that's a me style thing.
No, and I'm totally with you on that. I'm not like you said in the entire realm of wrestling. I know names. I don't follow Ring of Honor. I don't follow all these. I don't. I'm not gonna say. So I almost said smaller companies, but that's not true. It's the not nationally televised ones, not the ones. The ones that aren't as easily accessible. So I'm with you on that, and I agree. Like just being introduced to Minoru Suzuki and Satoshi Kojima, like it's cool to be able to get that range of exposure, because I think that's my biggest thing about AEW is in Tony Khan specifically. Like he is a wrestling fan at heart, and he wants people who are fans of wrestling to be able to acknowledge and see what is going on around the world. I mean, we've seen Juventud Guerrero Jr. He just came back a couple weeks ago. Well, not came back. He showed up on AEW to fight Chris Jericho, and he had a hell of a match. He proved that he could still go. So, like the fact that we're just being exposed to these little bits of history and these people, it's like, oh, I like Suzuki's match. Let me see what else he's done. Maybe they become a fan of New Japan. So, like, it's just that fact that I think my buddy was trying to say, is there a competition between AEW and WWE? And I'm like, I think WWE finds it as competition, but AEW just sees it as they want wrestling fans to be fans of wrestling no matter where you watch. They want you to check out Ring of Honor. They want you to check out Impact. I mean, Christian Cage just won the Impact title a couple weeks ago. I mean, there's just so much opportunity and so many different types of wrestling and show companies that we could watch that we just don't know about. And Tony Khan is trying to help us find those and find more passion in this. It's not even sports entertainment for him, it's just wrestling. And that's something that I've heard multiple times. It's not sports entertainment, it is wrestling at its finest. There's no over dramatized stuff. It's kind of just pure wrestling. And it's so, you could feel that passion when you watch AEW. You see it. And I'm sorry to be completely marking out about this company because I'm really new with them, but it's exciting. I've kind of got worn out on WWE recently, and it's just a fresh take, and it's different. It's even the match quality. It's crazy. It's just completely different from the product that we've been getting.
And that's something I even as a kid, I always hated. Like I'd be, seventh grade or something watching Monday Night Raw week, and I didn't care. Like I'd watch Monday Night Raw week in and week out. I didn't care. I liked watching wrestling. It's what I did.
Hmm.
But even during the week, I would complain because, once it went to a 3 hour show, it's like, heck yeah, I get to watch wrestling for 3 hours. But then it's just like you tune into Monday Night Raw and you have a first segment that is two people, three people, one person talking in the middle of the ring for 25 minutes. And I'm
Yeah.
just sitting there and I'm just like, okay, like I get this. And obviously, you don't want to overexpose your big stars. You're not going to put,
Right.
Chris Jericho week in, week out on AEW Dynamite wrestling in these matches that are, 8 to 10 minutes. Like it's just like, because then it's just when you get to a pay per view, it's less special that Chris Jericho's on it. Obviously, it's a business, and I
Right.
get that, but also you look back to the 90s a little bit, and I mean, you'd have WWF championship matches on Monday Night Raw where the title would change hands and it was
Yeah.
big. Or you'd have, a lot of your big names, they'd be wrestling, uh, a couple times a month, maybe. Like, obviously, we weren't alive watching the Monday Night Wars in the 90s. And so this is partial knowledge, partial hearsay. But
Right. Right.
it's, I feel like you still got some of your bigger stars wrestling week in and week out. Um, But now it's, you know, when you look at WWE nowadays, Roman Reigns, you don't have Roman Reigns wrestle on TV unless he needs to. You have him versus Finn Balor last Friday, 100% that freaking worked. Like it just,
that was awesome.
It's awesome. But again, you maybe have him wrestle on one SmackDown a month, and it just makes it that much more special because obviously he's got that undefeated streak where it's, if you're wrestling, it's just like, okay, well, logically maybe he would lose here. So it works in instances like that. But when you have, now you got people like Drew McIntyre who now they're starting to wrestle a few times a little bit. But like I feel like there's some of those big stars who it's just, you see them talk in the ring every week, but they're not wrestling. And I think that's what kind of killed me for WWE a little bit, because I feel like in AEW, you have some of their bigger names wrestling on a televised show every once in a while, and that helps a little bit. And I think that's what kind of has killed me a little bit for WWE is they want to build the story, and I get that. You need a story in wrestling. Wrestling would just be two people dancing with each other if there wasn't a story. But also, people watch to see action. I watch The Big Bang Theory to have people sitting and talking. I don't watch Dynamite and Raw and SmackDown to have people standing in a ring and talking.
Yeah, and that the thing that really did it for me lately was, so Cena was coming out of the beginning of every Raw last month leading up to the pay-per-view, doing it again, like you said, a 20-minute promo just standing there talking. And Cena is one of the, I can't say he's one of the all-time greats on the mic because he's very good. He's very good. For me, he's never been extremely captivating. Like The Rock, Stone Cold, these couple of guys that I could just think of that were just amazing right at the top. Cena, now that he hasn't done that in a while, it just mind-numbing. It was mind-numbing nonsense that he was saying. Like, he was talking and passionate, but like there was no quality to it. There was nothing different. You could tell it was kind of all off the cuff. It wasn't, I don't know. And that's part of the reason again, Raw's 3 hours, first of all, like you said, which is ridiculous. Second of all, like you said, Cena, I don't want to hear you talk for 20 minutes about how you're going to kick Roman's ass. 1, 2, 3. He said the 1, 2, 3 thing like 5 times when he was talking to Roman. And I'm like, dude, we get it. Come up, get something new. Take a script, like do what you need to. But and that's again, I'm gonna keep harping on the AEW because I was there and I'm kind of a little hyped up about it. But like, yeah, that's the difference. And same thing with the title matches. We saw Kenny Omega lose the Impact title to Christian Cage on the first episode of I think it was the first episode of Rampage. But like, those are possibilities that can happen. And it's just so the product, like I said, just the product is so different and it's changing in such a great way. And yeah, I don't know. I just as of right now, I gotta say I think AEW is a superior product at the moment.
Before we get into All Out, we've both mentioned Raw being 3 hours. I was like at the peak of my wrestling fandom when Raw went to 3 hours, because that was the Raw 1000th episode. I did not get to watch that live because that week we went camping for a week. That was a week we were going camping. I asked my friend to tape it on VHS.
Oh, wow.
And then before he could get me that VHS tape, I found the entire 3 hour Raw 1000 on YouTube and watched it. So, hey, that was back in 2012. So 9 years later, if the police are watching this, I illegally watched, well, not illegally, someone illegally put it on YouTube. I took advantage of them doing that.
Yeah. So you found it. It's like an Easter egg hunt.
But with that 3 hours, the point I was going to make is Nick Khan, who works for WWE. Did you see that interview where he said he wishes Raw was 4 hours? Raw would benefit from a 4th hour.
No, I didn't. And that would have I would have punched my computer screen if I had seen that.
If Raw was 2 hours, it would be, in my opinion, so much better. Because now you just have meaningless crap for basically an hour. Let's like really, if it boils down to it, if you take all the things that some people find meaningless, pointless, whatever, that would probably total up to about an hour. So you take that hour out, boom, you're perfect. You know, you can still have, because then that almost forces you, instead of having 20 to 25 minutes of meaningless rambling, you don't have time for 20 to 25 minutes. You then shorten that to a 10-minute segment, and then you have a couple matches, and then you got your main event. Like it just seems too easy, and I think everyone in the world knows it except those who are in charge of it at WWE, or they know it and they're just like, we can't do it now because then we'll get ripped on no matter what, which I think the last thing they care about is people ripping on them, because they're a billion-dollar corporation. Like, no one, I don't think anyone there cares. But
Vinnie Mac's
I
putting
digress.
on his product. Vinnie Mac's putting on his product. He's doing what he wants. Bruce Pritchard, who I've been listening to the podcast thanks to you, Something to Wrestle With. I've been obsessed with that lately. That has been my thing getting me through quarantine. Love that show. Been listening to like the old like 98 through like mid 2000s when I was watching as a kid shows. So kind of cool to see the background stuff. Anyway, like my problem, the thing I was going to bring up, I saw a Reddit post a couple days ago comparing the number of TV and pay-per-view rematches from AEW to WWE. And I can tell you myself, WWE is horrendous when it comes to rematches. It's unbelievable how often they do it. I want you to take a guess. How many rematches in this year alone, 2021? How many rematches do you think AEW has done? Just, I know you don't watch that much, but just take a number guess.
Like rematches. So like if they wrestled on a pay-per-view, how many times have they wrestled after?
Yeah, or if they wrestled on a Dynamite and then wrestled
again.
Yeah, how many times do you think they've done it?
Well, if you're asking, it means it's less than double digits. I'm going to say 4.
Okay, so undershot it just a little bit. It's 16. For a whole year, 16. That's not bad.
No.
WWE, 160 rematches.
I was about to say, because I mean, even if you just look at it, Roman and Edge have already wrestled twice. I mean, that's just that, and that's the biggest storyline that has happened all year. But then you also
about Bianca and Carmella, who wrestled 4 times in a row, pay-per-view and then SmackDowns. Yeah. And they're including the Becky Lynch one. They're including the one from the last pay-per-view because technically it was Bianca and Sasha, but then Carmella was the replacement. So like I think they're technically counting that as a rematch as well.
Well, then Bianca and Sasha, again, so that's 2. And then you also, but then it's also, I mean, Drew was wrestling Bobby, like 3 or 4 times? Like, yeah, no, I mean, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And look at the women's tag team division. Natalya and Tamina versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler 5 times within the span of 3 months. Like, if that's not the one that pissed me off, because I don't like Baron Corbin, King Corbin, and Nakamura 5 times again within 2 months.
Remember fall of 2019 up until like Elimination Chamber, how many times Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns fought each other?
Oh man, that was the beginning.
Storyline went from like too. That storyline went from like September to like March.
And it was
and everyone was done with it. Everyone was done with it by like November.
And then they did 2 dog food things. 2! You didn't need 1. Like, are you shitting me? Oh god! Oh my god! I almost dropped my computer. I don't like Corbin. I like Happy Corbin. He's fun. He's different. Oh, but man, that guy.
You know me. I've been a Baron Corbin guy for years. Like,
yeah, I just don't understand.
Even through that whole King Corbin like phase, I went to a SmackDown where it was the New Day, or no, King Corbin, I think, started things off. New Day came out to interrupt him. Then it was going to be New Day versus, or it was King Corbin versus Kofi. And then Dolph Ziggler came out. So then it was Kofi and Big E versus Baron and Dolph. And so it was just like, it was that the entire time. I was like one of 3 people in the entire Pfizer forum yelling, King Corbett, let's go. There's on a YouTube clip, there's a YouTube clip. I can send you a link. There's like a rest hold, and you can hear Corbin, he's my king, and it's me. I'm a big
Wow.
Corbin guy. Anyway, AEW All
Okay.
Out. We've
Yes.
done kind of all over the place with our pre-stuff. Nothing even really relating to the show, just kind of giving our base opinions to whoever stumbles upon this. I don't even know what we're doing with
Yeah.
this. We're kind of just hit record and we're just kind of doing it. Who knows? This could just stay on my laptop and never go anywhere.
Whatever.
So you were there.
Yes.
And so, like I said before, I did not watch the buy-in, but it was Best Friends and Jurassic Express versus the Hardy Family Office. Now, that sounds like a match that I would have enjoyed because I love the Jurassic Express. I'm not a big Chuck Taylor guy, not gonna lie. Back when I did watch AEW, I was not a big Best Friends guy. Obviously, Orange Cassidy's funny. I love the Orange Cassidy character. I think the only like real Orange Cassidy match I've watched, which is not a good thing to say because I've heard he's had some bangers. I watched the Mimosa match with
with
Chris Jericho at what was it, Revolution. That's the pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
Last October, I think it was November.
Something like that.
I watched that match, and yes, I love Orange Cassidy. I love Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. First pay-per-view, I watched the original All Out. And I think that might have been the first time I ever saw Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Loved them from the beginning. And then obviously Matt Hardy. I've heard of Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, Angelico, and Jack Evans. I haven't seen anything of theirs, but what you were there in person, break down, kind of talk about the match. What did you enjoy? What did you not like? And I guess maybe we can do star ratings or what you thought. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, I like the match. I mean, so my biggest problem is overbooking. I like a quick paced match. I like stuff that happens constantly, but we don't need like a table spot. You know, like so it goes like a table spot. You bring out a chair. There's a run in. There's a a false finish. I mean, over and over. Like when it's just oversaturated, it can be a little too much. And I was actually concerned about that with this match. There's a lot of people, a lot of things you got to get through, and it's like you said with the buy-in, so it's not going to be the longest match. However, it superseded my expectations by a mile because everybody got their shots in. Everyone pretty much got to hit their signature moves. A lot of high spots, a lot of action. It was a really entertaining match, and I'm a big Jurassic Express guy. I think the tag team division in general in AEW is superior. It is phenomenal. Every tag team matters in their own way. The heels were honestly some of my favorites in the match. I loved Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. I think they're really entertaining guys. I like big guys that are high flyers at the same time. That's why I'm a big Luchasaurus guy. He's mobile, he's strong, he does a lot of different stuff. Orange Cassidy is one of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. Like you said, he's hilarious. He has some, and he can bring the action. Not that I don't know what they call it when he does the kicks, and everyone goes, "Oh!" But it's that little like leg tap, and they go, "Oh!" That always gets over for me. It is always so entertaining, and he did it. There was 3 gentlemen. I know it was Hardy, I think Isaiah Cassidy, and might have been one of the guys from TH2, and he was just going one by one, kick, 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 kick. It was just so good. I mean, honestly, it was good. It was a quick match for 5-on-5. It's fine. It could have gone a little longer, but it was what it was, and I was a big fan of it. If I had to give it a star rating, I mean, I'd probably give it a good 3 stars. It wasn't crazy. Could have been a little longer, but it was great. Honestly, I don't have a lot of complaints. Like I said, maybe 3 is a little too low. I'd go like a 3.5. I wouldn't say 4 because 4 would have to be, pretty up there. It'd have to be pretty damn interesting. But a 3.5 star for this match, I think, is appropriate for this. It was good. That's all I can say. It was a good match.
And I don't know if I've ever had this conversation with you. I feel like I brought it up. I don't know how deep we've gotten into it. I tweet about it all the time. I love tag team wrestling. I
Mm-hmm.
adore
Oh
tag
yeah.
team wrestling. I always have. If you have two good tag teams, it's it's probably, I mean, probably 8 out of 10 times my favorite match of the night. If you have a really good tag team match, even if there's a good singles match, tag teams, it's always been it for me. I've always been an FTR fan. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I luckily got to see them as the Revival before their departure from WWE at that SmackDown show. And that's the thing. They're so good that I went to a Friday night SmackDown, and it was Mustafa Ali and Chad Gable versus the Revival. Now I love Chad Gable too. Now I hate that he's a heel
Yeah.
right now. I hate that his whole thing with Otis. I haven't even seen it technically as a segment, but just on social media, I despise that for both of them. I don't know
Yeah.
why Heavy Machinery ever broke up. I don't know why Chad Gable ever had
Yeah.
his whole Shorty G thing. That's another
Oh
King
man.
Corbinism that I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah. Thanks, King Corbin. Thanks for that.
There is
Shorty
no
G.
King Corbin
Phenomenal.
slander on this podcast, Philium.
There will be on this part of the screen. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, but I mean, they killed it. I went last spring. I went back on the WWE Network one morning, found that episode of SmackDown just so I could rewatch that match. Now I saw it in person, so I saw
Nice.
it from my angle. I even have a couple, I think, pictures or something from it. But then watching it on TV, getting this, it's just a basic SmackDown, and that's the thing. You have a great match on televised TV, and that's like you can have some of those bangers if you just give them more time. Cut down
Yeah.
the talking segments, cut down the BS where you have someone running in and stopping the match or something. Give us an actual match, and it's wonderful. Like you have four great guys. FTR went on to some fame in AEW, like more fame, not like they weren't good in WWE, but went on to even bigger and better things in AEW. And then
Right.
like it's just like it works out. So, but yeah, so tag team matches, I love them. That's why I love the Jurassic Express. Again, best friends has never been a thing for me. Uh, but you know, I mean, I'm glad that you enjoyed that match, and that's going to bring us on to the next one, the opening match of the night. I was struggling with lag and stuff like that while I was first trying to watch. So I basically missed this match and then a little bit of the next one. But so for the AEW TNT Championship, the defending champ Miro facing off against Eddie Kingston. Now I've heard great things about Eddie Kingston. Seen him on again social media and stuff. I haven't been the biggest watcher of AEW. I'm looking to change that. Miro, I'm familiar with his WWE stuff. Again,
Mm-hmm.
since joining AEW, it seemed like he was kind of at a halt for a while until he won the TNT Championship. Talk about this match. Talk about, you're more familiar with the build up to this pay per view, I think. Talk about this storyline between Eddie Kingston and Miro, and going into it, who'd you think was going to win, and were you disappointed afterwards?
So let me preface this by saying that I'm not big on Eddie Kingston. I like him. He's fine. He's a great promo. He is so entertaining. He is captivating to listen to.
Which I don't think anybody, I think that's what everybody loves about him, is that he can
Yeah.
talk.
Oh, and that he does a great job of it. He is entertaining. He is down to earth. He's gritty. He's very, I don't know if he's from, I think he's from New York. And he could tell he's very New York. He's honest. He's brutal. He's funny. He's good. He's a good promo. His wrestling style isn't particularly my favorite. It's a little slower. It's like he wants to be a hoss, but he doesn't have the actual height of the hoss. He doesn't have the particularly Miro, Brian Cage sort of big guy build that I really look for. He just kind of looks like an out of shape gangster, which is fine. You know, that's kind of him. My favorite part was Miro. I want to say it was on. It had to be on Dynamite this past week. Miro's in the ring talking to God. He's a very religious gimmick. He's talking about God. Eddie Kingston comes out in the middle of the promo. Couldn't tell you all of what he said, but he goes out and says, "You said you want to redeem yourself to God. gritting these nuts, jumps in the ring and kicks his ass and walks out. It was so funny. Like, it's just those little things that I loved about him. As far as the match itself, another thing, it superseded my expectations. It was fun. Miro put a lot, I think it put a lot of the grunt work in. Eddie Kingston got some good shots in. It's just that, like, when I watch Eddie Kingston, I don't believe that he could beat someone up the size of Miro. If you have, so to bring it back to WWE, for example, when Mysterio and Batista fought for the heavyweight title, there was something to me where the size is so drastically different that it's like, okay, I could see Mysterio's fast. He's a high flyer. He can do this and that off the rope stuff that Batista can't do and might not expect because he's not used to wrestling those guys. Like, he's used to wrestling and just overpowering guys his size. Eddie Kingston doesn't have that build where I believe him as much. So I knew in my head, I knew Miro was going to win. I think they wanted, I mean, not that they need to make Eddie look better than he is, because he's obviously over with a lot of fans, promo wise, for sure. It's just that, like I said, I don't know if I would believed him when he was beating up Miro. It just doesn't register in my head. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. So Miro winning, I just kind of figured was going to happen. It was entertaining nonetheless. It was a good match. It was fine, but didn't do a whole lot for me because I'm not a big Eddie Kingston guy. So it wasn't really for me, the match. But if you are a fan of Eddie Kingston and his wrestling style, people love the match. So more power to you if you do. But again, just not for me personally.
I almost feel like this one was like this match happened because Eddie Kingston is over.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not again, and I'm not sure based on what I see, I'm not sure how people feel about his in-ring work necessarily, but obviously he's over promo wise. We both can agree on that. I think since he's over like that, I think they almost used it as his way to, or Miro, the ability or the way to get Miro more over. Not that Miro's not over. I think it was more just give him credibility as a champion. And I think Eddie Kingston was a good stepping stone to do that because obviously he's like, you're not just going to throw him in it. I don't think anybody didn't think that the match wasn't like shouldn't have been a thing or that. I think it was just kind of perfect for what it was. It was an opening match. It was, good where there's no complaints. Because again, that's when I still was having technical issues. From what I saw, it was entertaining. From what I read on it, people liked it. I think it was exactly what it needed to be, a nice opener to get the crowd kind of, warmed up a little bit. And then, Miro goes over. And I mean, we talked about how rematches aren't really a thing. Well, now you have, September. So you have October and November to build up either a new opponent for Miro or maybe even continue the Miro Eddie Kingston storyline and maybe see a rematch at Full Gear. So who knows?
Totally possible. I mean, like I said, you said it perfectly. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, like for me, it wasn't for me, but still fine. It was just a fine match for me.
Yeah. And we had Jon Moxley, who this might be a controversial opinion. And I think it's just the WWE mark in me that I have not been the biggest Jon Moxley fan since he left WWE, which is the most unpopular opinion that there is out there because everyone and their mother has loved Jon Moxley outside WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it might be partially because of his style now that he's more his normal pre-WWE style, almost early WWE style. I think it's partly because of that, but I don't mind the hardcore, the rough and tough style things. I just think at some points, I think his character for me, I think it's just too over the top, I think it's just kind of like, I don't think exaggerated is the right word, but it's what I'm going to go with, right? Like, it's just kind of like he always has it cranked to a 10 where he's kind of just, that psychopath type thing. And I think that just
Mhm.
got old for me really quick, if that makes sense.
I can understand where you're coming from. I don't agree personally. I kind of like it. So my buddy Zach, who's a big Stone Cold guy, that's his favorite wrestler all time. He was like, "How would you explain John Moxley? Like, what does he do?" I'm like, think of Stone Cold esque. He's in that sort of gimmick where he's the brawler. He's aggressive. He doesn't care about fancy wrestling moves. He just wants to be impactful. He wants to be tough. He's just looking to kick your ass and win. Like he doesn't care about anything else. His promos, I feel like, are really in the same realm as well. He always does the backstage ones with the pipes behind him and looking like he's underground and all that. Like he's just trying to be tough, and I think that's just the whole gimmick period. And so if you don't like that, that's not your thing. Again, that's fine. I get it, but I love that because it's done. It's just being done so well. Whereas I think like when he debuted with the Shield, I thought they were so cringy. That's when I
Really?
thought they were trying, and I thought they were trying entirely too hard to try to be that way. When you have three guys doing the same thing, Rollins is trying to be crazy. Moxley was their de facto leader, but he's like, we don't really have a leader. Roman Reigns was the tough and silent type. Like, I don't know. It was. I think that was when they were a little over the top. When I can't even think of his other name right now, Dean Ambrose. When he was Dean Ambrose by himself, I think it finally stood out more because there wasn't as much of it. So like with Moxley, I feel like he's that only character in that realm where he's just like that's why like it's so Eddie Kingston kind of tagged up with him for a while. They're that sort of similar kick your ass, rough and tough, striking more than anything, uh, uh, wrestling type, and it just works on their own. Those little doses are fine. But like I said, just with the Shield all together initially, when they got into full stride, they were amazing. But like I said, now that he has his character figured out, he gets to do what he wants. He has his own creative input. I think this is the perfect like encompassing John Moxley that we've gotten in a long time. I think it's better than he's ever been in WWE personally.
And I think maybe it's just I need to, because I've seen not a whole lot of it. I saw it when he kind of first came in, and I've seen, obviously highlights on social media, and I've seen like a match or two. I saw when he beat Chris Jericho for the AEW World Title, um, which I liked, and I think I kind of like the build up to that. I think if I watch it a little bit more, it might start to settle in with me. I liked. Oh, here it comes. One second. Oh, excuse me. Ooh, it was kind of just like sitting there.
Nice.
Um, I think I liked Dean Ambrose near the end, where he was the
Mm-hmm.
lunatic, almost John Moxley type, like just on the brink of WWE PG John Moxley. So like that's where Dean Ambrose was. And I kind of liked the WWE humor side of him mixed in with that craziness. Like the whole where it was Moxley, or not Moxley, Ambrose, AJ Styles, James Ellsworth. That kind
Okay.
of storyline where it was, and Moxley was, or not, I keep saying, I'm just gonna say Moxley because that's who he is. Where it
Yeah,
was
that's yeah.
him kind of helping Ellsworth get over AJ Styles a little bit, and where like he was a special guest referee one time, and AJ Styles was getting the pin, and he pulls out his cell phone, is laying on the mat. It's like, no, I got time to like that kind of humor. I love that cheesy style humor, stuff like that. That's almost more WWE style humor. I think if he
Totally.
brings, obviously, the AEW fans love him exactly how he is, and I think if I watch him more, I might learn to do it too. I think if he brings a little bit more of that humorous side to complement his badassness, I think that would be like perfect, at least for me, which obviously I think I am a special type of wrestling fan, um, where I don't necessarily see eye to, where I'm the type of guy who likes Baron Corbin when he's King Corbin for a year and a half.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. So I think with Moxley, he's like you said, there's that corniness in WWE that is their signature style. They like to do like a cheesy little thing like that. Whereas it's the AEW is more for lack of a better word, I guess, matured approach to it, depending on the characters. Because there are some people that are just goofballs just to be goofballs. Like when on Dynamite earlier this week, Kenny Omega was kicking the crap out of Christian Cage and he goes, "Who do you think you are? I am." Like those little bits of memes and stuff like that. They'll just sprinkle that in there. So like there's like cute little stuff there, but like Moxley was the I don't remember what the name of it was, but I think it was Moxley and Omega when they did the exploding ring match. So like whoever lost was gonna die in the ring basically after the explosion. The ring explodes, the little
Yeah.
poof of smoke and whatever. And after it goes off air, Moxley's talking to the crowd and goes, "Well, Omega kicked my ass, but he can't build a exploding ring worth of shit." So like he has those little humorous
Yeah.
moments, but it's not that same. It's definitely not that same sort of WWE humor, which is I totally get. It is WWE's humor is pretty spot on when it hits. It's really good. So I can totally appreciate where you're coming from.
We've been going for such a long time that we might have to zoom through some of these matches and
Oh,
talking about
absolutely.
it.
Let's do it.
So Moxley Kojima, quick reaction. What was your thoughts on the match? I kind of caught the tail end of it. That's when the stream started working for me a little bit, and I personally liked the ending at least. Both of them looked really nice. Moxley obviously got the win, and then of course coming out was Minoru Suzuki, who, based on things I've kind of heard and read on in the last 24 hours, and just the quick promo that Moxley had and that they're wrestling on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. But what were your thoughts on the entire match?
I mean, honestly, it's really cool to see wrestlers wrestle a type of style that they're not used to. New Japan wrestlers seem to have a very different style. It's much more technical and precision movements. It's not as much, like I said, it's not as much fluff, the high flying, which I'm more actually a fan of. I like the high flying stuff. I like off the top ropes. It's why I'm a big Lucha Brothers fan. It's a lot of explosive stuff going on. This is a match for a particular wrestling fan base that is cool with those mechanical moves, the arm bars, the simple chain wrestling. Like you got to be kind of particular about that, and it was good. It was cool to see a different style of wrestling. Kojima looked, like you said, they both looked amazing coming out of it. I don't think either of them got jobbed or squashed in any sort of way. They both got incredible moves, and Moxley was determined at the end. Hit him with two. Well, I think one of them might have been a regular DDT, but I just consider both of them paradigm shifts. He did that, the double tap, and just make sure he got that pin. It makes it like that, something like that. That little thing where it's like, oh, he hit him twice, but he didn't hit him the first time, because I think what they're trying to do is it's that little bit of storytelling where it's like, I don't know if I can finish this guy doing it once, so I'm hitting this motherfucker twice to make sure he's going to stay down because I know he's tough. So it's those little things that like I can really appreciate in that match, and I think it was really well done. And for only a 12-minute match, I feel like that match went on for like a half hour, and I mean that's how a lot of these matches are. Honestly, they were only about 10 to 20 minutes each, but it felt like they were an hour long each because they were that good. There was just so much going on, and it worked. So that's why I was a big fan of Kojima and Moxley, and like I said, especially with the oh, blanking on his name. You just said it, Minoru Suzuki. Him coming out, I think that's part of the reason it felt longer, because they actually got a good couple shots in on each other. And again, Suzuki ended up looking phenomenal in that segment, and he really seems like a formidable opponent for Moxley.
Moving on, the AEW Women's World Championship match, Britt Baker DMD beating Chris Statlander. We'll kind of quick gloss over this one, as there are some other matches, and we've been talking for quite a long time. But I had never, not to my recollection at least, had really seen. I think I've seen a couple maybe, but not one till I remember where I've seen Britt Baker wrestle, and
yeah,
I loved it. I had seen Chris Statlander wrestle once before as well, and I remember liking that match. And the two of them together, I thought it was great. I'd give it. I'm struggling to remember the full match, but I'd say probably 3.5, 3 3/4 stars. Personally, I think it was fantastic. I think honestly, I would probably even give it 4, because I think they just told a great story. both of them came out looking fantastic. Even with a loss, Statlander just looked awesome. And I think she's got a future in that women's division.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was thinking the exact same thing. I think 4 stars is appropriate because, like you said, it told a great story. The reason we haven't seen Britt Baker on recently is because she had an ACL tear at one point. I think she broke something in her ankle at one point as well, and she busted her face to where she was wearing a mask for a good while. So I haven't been able to see her a lot as since I started watching AEW, but more recently, obviously, she's been back. And I agree, they both looked phenomenal. Britt Baker hitting the Panama Sunrise was
Oh,
so, oh man, I
oh,
popped so hard for
that
that.
was
That
so
was
cool.
beautiful. It's like it was like, okay, he's got to be here. There's no
Oh, when
way
that
that
when
she's
that
doing
hit,
that as
that's
a
when
shout
I
out.
I I think I definitely had the same reaction. I'm just like, oh gosh, he's here, isn't he? Or it just was like kind of toying with people to the point where if he's not here tonight, oh, there's probably a good chance he's signing with AEW, and we'll get to
Yeah.
that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Obviously, pronouns, pal, but like it. That's why we're just saying he. But yeah, no, it looked fantastic, and yeah, just a great overall. Speaking of great overall matches,
Oh,
this is one of two, maybe two and a half that I really want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into. Again, I love tag team wrestling. I love it. And the Young Bucks,
yeah,
I'm not a big Young Bucks fan. I've seen
yeah.
many of their matches, and I'm on the half of people who it's their spot fests, which I think the Young Bucks
Yeah,
kind of
that's
kind
fair.
of steer into the skid. And I think that's one thing that I'm not the biggest fan. There have been some where it's just like, I love this. It's a spot fest, but I'm still kind of eating it up. Um, but I've just never kind of been the biggest Young Bucks fan. Last night, I was. I have always, though, since I started watching AEW, I've always been a Lucha Bros fan. And last
Oh
night
yeah.
just showed why. Like you said, high flying, everything. I I honestly had no idea who was going to win the match.
Me neither. No, I
Going
truthfully
into the
didn't.
match, I think I'm just like Young Bucks are probably going to do it. Like they'll get,
Spot on.
build them as bigger heels. Like I think I'm just like Young Bucks. They're probably going to win it. Um, I honestly don't think I ever had the thought where it's like Lucha Bros are going to win this until about, I'd say maybe the last 2 minutes of the match. I'm just like, I think the Lucha Bros are going to win this. And
Yeah.
it was just such a fantastic match. I texted you during the match and I'm just like, I hate steel cage matches where they can, no. Remember what I texted you?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, 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 I
I
forgot.
hate the
Sorry.
fact that you can have a pin or a submission in a steel cage match. I mean, when I think I got into steel cage matches during playing SmackDown versus Raw 2009, where in the match you can't pin anybody. If I remember correctly, you can just escape. And I'm just like, I like that
Yeah.
aspect of it where you have to escape the cage. Um, and obviously since the 80s, they've been doing it where you can get a pin or submission in the ring. I've just, and obviously the whole point of the steel cage is to keep people out. That's the main purpose of it. Um,
Hmm.
and for the most part, that's what it does. No one really interferes or whatever. But I don't know. I just like the idea of escaping. But last night's match was fantastic. I it
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I don't think I'd give it 5 stars. For me personally, one point in the match, I found it just super cheesy. It was funny, but I just found it a little too cheesy when they were all standing in the circle and it's just super
Yeah.
kick. Like it's that shit that it's just like that's the Young Bucks match type thing that I just hate.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and when I saw it was happening, I was like, no. It worked. I ended up like, okay, cool. It was cool, but it's just like that.
Yeah.
I think I'd give it like a 4.5 stars.
Wow.
One thing that I loved was the which I guess and I hadn't seen it, but I was on Twitter, I was seeing it that they pulled out a thumbtack shoe again. I guess they've done it in the past. I loved that. When I saw him pull it out, I'm just like, oh, this is fantastic.
And to add a little bit onto that, what I didn't know, so I'm not a big sneakerhead, but I did notice, I'm like, those are some different shoes. That shoe that he put on was worth $5,000.
They mentioned that
It,
on the broadcast. They
oh,
said
they
that,
did.
and it was
Oh, good. Oh
I
my
think they only
God.
said it was a couple hundred, but 5,000, no kidding.
Oh, it was the Travis Scott edition of the Jordan 1, and then there was like another collaboration on top of that. So like again, I'm not a shoe guy, I didn't really get it, but like it was again that swagger that's a part of them. That's like we can afford this, and this is what we're gonna do to the shoe. And by the way, credit to Brian Cutler for making that throw over the cage. That
Oh
was
yeah.
spot
I saw
on.
he was
That
getting
was
ready to
spot
throw
on.
it, and I'm just like, this is either going to go wrong or it's going to go right on the first. And it went right on the first try. I'm just like, props to them. That
Yeah,
they
that was
made it
pretty
work.
cool. Through the Rip Hamilton face mask too, he was able to hit that. Like respect, man. Respect for
And
that.
one thing that you didn't experience in person, but us at home got to, I've only experienced Don Callis on social media, and I've listened to a couple of his promos on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. He plays an asshole so well that when he was on commentary, it was great. He wasn't
Oh, actually,
distracting.
we were getting the feed up where I was for
Okay.
commentary. So yeah, believe me, I'm with you there. He was phenomenal on
He
commentary to put the Bucks
he
over.
he just like he wasn't. I mean, obviously, I'm not the biggest fan, and we can dive into this if we do further episodes. We can dive into it a little bit more. The AEW commentary team is one thing that I'm just that almost steers me away a little bit from AEW, and you and I have personally talked off camera about that. We can bring that up
Mm-hmm.
in the future. Even just 3-person broadcast teams, I've never been the biggest fan of.
Yeah.
But even in like professional sports like the NFL and stuff like that, 3-person broadcast teams only work in certain situations. But he didn't now that there's 4 people on the commentary table, he didn't say a whole lot, and he would interject and just say the right thing. And it just worked. And I think it added to the match that it just worked. And I think personally for me, this was match of the night.
I have to give this 5 stars. I mean, I'm a sucker for gimmick matches. I love ladder matches. I love Hell in a Cells. I love cage matches. This, truthfully, I know you didn't like that little roundabout square super kick thing. I think that added to the story a little bit. They're all super kick guys, obviously. It's all something that they do regularly. I just think it added a little bit to it's like, okay, maybe they respect each other. Words. They respect each other enough to let them get their shots in. They are actually they were showing they were competitive because they were staying in it, and then they were switching it up in between, kicking each other, dodging their moves. Like I just think it's those little over choreographed moments that makes me appreciate it a little more, because it's just something like, again, maybe it's because I was there live eating it all up, everything I was entertained by. But man, I was a big fan of this match. I thought the ending was spectacular. There were so many false finishes that I fell for, and the ending of Ray Phoenix, first of all, Penta jumping in the way of Ray Phoenix,
Yeah.
not catching that super kick in the face. Amazing storytelling there. He's saving his younger brother. Then Phoenix, to pay him back, goes up to the top, jumping off, risking his life, taking him out, and then finishing off the match was phenomenal. I really think this was a perfect match. I don't have a single complaint about it. I wouldn't have been upset if the Bucks won, but it was better that the Lucha Brothers won for sure. It just worked so well. I don't know if I've ever seen a better cage match. Like the TLC matches are iconic, so I have to rank those ahead. But like this is really up there with one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Moving on. This is one of the matches I was going to gloss over, but I'll let you kind of take it. I was busy doing some like chores and stuff during this. I had to do some laundry and do some dishes last night, so I kind of had this on in the background. So you can break it down as you were in person. The 21-woman casino battle royale to determine the next contender for the Women's World Championship match. You had told me that it was confirmed, or you had seen, or someone had seen someone who would be returning, and I was trying to wait for it who it was, and it was during this match. Phil, why don't you kind of break this one down a little bit?
So remember when I told you that?
Yeah.
This wasn't the person my buddy saw. There was somebody else that did not show up that night.
So there's someone else who will be debuting.
Potentially. I don't know anything yet. I've been seeing stuff online about this person. I don't know how much you want me to share on air because I don't want to say anything and promise and it not happening.
I'm trying to think of who it could. Off the top of my head, I have no one who I can think I've heard rumors about, so I'm not sure if I want it. I don't want it spoiled. I don't. Let's just
okay.
Let's move on because
I won't talk about that.
I'll do my research, see if it is. Otherwise, I can just
okay.
We can talk
we'll
about
ignore
that later.
But
anyway,
all I wanted to say was I wanted to kind of like when you asked like, oh, this is who you're talking about, I was like, yeah, let's see if they show up tonight and see if I can psych them out. But So it was the women's casino battle royale. I know we're gonna gloss over this, so I'm only gonna give a couple points. The idea of the casino battle royale is not my favorite. No. I love Rumble matches. I love battle royales. They are some of my favorite. The Royal Rumbles have always been one of my favorite matches of the year. The execution of the casino battle royale is not my favorite. The picking the suit and being like, all right, go, wait 3.5 minutes. So I appreciate that AEW wants to bring that same sort of energy, the same match type. It's just the execution of it. It just doesn't work for me. Bringing 5 women out in a row and then, I
think for me, what it was from the parts that I kind of saw was they brought in the second suit and you have 5 women coming in, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and then, they're in there it's still like they're trying to get that Royal Rumble type thing. And they're like, someone will come in, they'll eliminate someone in 30 seconds. Like, it's just like, okay, you've been in the but some of you have just gotten in the match and you came in 5s and someone who was already they're trying to it's the battle royal type thing. But when you have 5 people coming in and then immediately have an eliminate, I don't know why having 5 come in instead of one person comes in and immediately eliminates someone. Like, okay, that's okay. But I don't know what it is about the 5 individuals coming in and then someone getting eliminated. Right. I don't know. I liked the match, but something about the concept of the casino battle royale just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. And I get that, I don't know, because part of me says that if you're going to have the Joker at the end, it's obviously going to be some sort of debut. Yeah. You're not going to have a Nyla Rose come out and be like, oh, she was the Joker. She got the number 30 spot, whatever you want to call it. Ruby Soho, who was the new debut in AEW, formerly known as Ruby Riott, who I loved in WWE. I thought she was phenomenal.
Everyone did. When she was released, that was one of the biggest surprises. She was part of that. She was part of the Samoa Joe group, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah. I think you're right on that. And I personally would have rather gotten rid of Liv Morgan and keep Ruby Riott instead.
Really? There's people and I think that was last week or something. There was a recent Liv Morgan match where I personally liked what she was doing, but there are people who they want her to be the 2022 Royal Rumble winner or see her being the 2022 Royal Rumble winner.
And don't get me wrong, I do like Liv Morgan. She is great. But if you're forcing me to choose between Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan, I think the easy choice is Ruby Riott. I think she is that.
Who I would have gotten rid of?
Eva Marie. Oh my god, I hate that chick.
They got rid of all those people to bring Eva Marie.
You gotta believe in
no one in their life has said, you know who I miss on WWTV? Eva Marie. You know who and look what she's nothing. All it is you've taken Doudrop, who I heard I don't remember what her name was in NXT UK, who I heard was a beast in NXT UK, who everybody loved. Now you've taken her, wasted her by going 4 weeks and then automatically turning on Eva Marie, and now she's got a dumbass name of Dewdrop.
Yep. No, believe me.
But yeah,
right
Ruby Riot,
Ruby
Soho
Yes.
debuted. It was great.
And yeah, no, but so the last thing I want to say about this match, the final 3, when it got down to the final 3, Thunder Rosa, Nyla Rose. Yeah, I always think Nia Jax and Nyla Rose, same sort of hosses in the women's divisions. Nyla Rose and Ruby Soho was a phenomenal last threesome, because I was almost convinced, because Thunder Rosa had just had a women's title match recently. I didn't think she was going to get that chance again, so I figured it was either down to Ruby or Nyla. And I'm a big fan of Nyla. I like women that are hosses. I like that ability that they could be strong, that they could be also agile. I love that idea, because we didn't have that growing up. The couple of hoss women, we were like Beth Phoenix or like Awesome Kong for a little bit. So like, but we didn't really have that. I like that now in this era. But that ending was phenomenal. Ruby totally deserves being put to the top immediately. She is that damn good. I think she deserved to win the other night, and I just think it worked out perfectly. It was a fun match. Again, I'm a sucker for Rumbles, so I mean, for Battle Royales, whatever you want to call them, same idea. So I ate it all up.
Yeah. No, I mean, and again, there wasn't really a bad match on this card. I think it was just there were small things in each match that were just kind of, that little itch, like kind of that you kind of get there. It's like, moving on. Chris Jericho and MJF. And now I read on Daily DDT, which is the fan-sided blog for wrestling. Daily DDT. Follow them on Twitter. And I occasionally read their stuff. That there was an article posted before the pay-per-view on why MJF had to beat Chris Jericho. And I'll go quick on this. But basically it was MJF has beaten Chris Jericho, I think 3 times. Something like that. And he's won. So like this match, obviously it's been a year-long storytelling. It's been great. But this match almost wasn't necessarily like needed, because it's just like, okay, he's beaten him 3 times. Like, what is this match even like for? Like, he's proven he's better. But so then the reason why MJF should have beaten Chris Jericho was he's proven he's better. Chris Jericho, obviously his time's kind of coming down a little bit. Obviously he's probably not ready to be done, but it just almost made sense that MJF goes over, proves, hey, I am better than quite possibly the greatest wrestler of all time. That gives him the extra heat. That gives him, catapults him to star power, with the, bummer that, Chris Jericho's done. Now, I personally didn't care who won, but the one point that I wanted to make with this was, I think the false finish ruined it. I think the fact that she counted to 3, MJF won, the music played, the bell rung, and you had to have the other official come out and say, well, no, the foot was on the rope. I think that ruined it for me, and then they had to restart the match. I think either Jericho should have won outright, or I think you do it where the foot was on the rope, but MJF wins. Aubrey Edwards, it's just like, I didn't see it. Like, but then you tell that story. Now you bring Chris Jericho, he's retired, but now you kind of play that out up until Full Gear, and it's Aubrey Edwards feels terrible. She somehow gets in on that storyline. MJF is just like, I retired and blah, blah, blah. And then Chris Jericho is just like, well, no, you didn't. And then you almost have the penultimate match, which again is it would have been the thing that would have not worked with this, is it almost would have been the same build up to All Out as it would then to Full Gear. Is
right.
Okay, Jericho, you have to earn this match with me, and then if you win this match, you're reinstated. Like I think, or almost do like kind of a Yeselmania type thing where it's Jericho keeps showing up or whatever until he gets what he wants, and then MJF finally is just like, okay, I'll give it to you. If you win now, you'll get your job back, like something like that. But I think the fact that it
Right.
ended and then they restarted it and then Jericho won, it just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, that's so. Again, in the moment, I ate everything up. I loved that at the time. As I processed it more and more after yesterday, like when I was on my way home yesterday and during the day today, I was thinking about that because it's one of those things where, like you said, the ref's call is final. That should have been it. In kayfabe, that should have been it. But the problem is then we have so many of these messed up finishes where like I can't remember distinctly, but in WWE they've done the same thing where it's like they show an instant replay on the board of, oh, this is what happened. When there have been tenfold the number of times that other like situations have happened and they don't do that.
Which
So
is
like
what I
why is
hate
this
when
the
they
exception?
do the reversal. I hate that they do that because it's just like, okay, 4 months ago the exact same thing happened. Where were the officials then? Or
Now
like the officials? Like obviously we all know it's a storyline, but it's just like at
totally.
that point it's just like, okay, just pick one or the other. Pick it where you have the officials backstage who can overturn something, or pick it where the person gets fucked. Like,
Now I have to say the one clever workaround to that was when Wardlow came out and Jack Hager followed. That other ref did come out, and that was the one who saw it. So like, I can see them showing that that's some sort of legitimacy to that. Where if it was just Aubrey was like, "Oh, I didn't see that foot in the rope. Let's restart the match," that would have been way worse. But because they wanted some level of legitimacy, like Wardlow coming out and helping, and Hager ended up beating him up, referees came out to break it up, and the ref did spot that during the count. It helped me under like be okay with that a little more. I didn't like it still, but it was that little thing that I'm kind of clinging on to be like, okay, I can understand that in this situation, I could maybe let it slide. But at the same note, I'm with you where it's just beat him clean. I thought MJF was going to win. I thought Jericho was going to retire as well. Like you said with the with DDT, I totally subscribed to that idea. I was with them that I figured Jericho was done. It helps MJF's resume, and I would have been cool with that. But you want Jericho to have that redemption and finally pin MJF after MJF hasn't lost. I think he's lost once in like a year and a half or something like that. It's been a while. So like I get it. You gotta you can put Jericho over. Totally get it. But yeah, the ending I didn't love, but again, I think it helped me to my peace of mind in order to um, explain that false finish away.
the match that everyone in their right mind was waiting for, that I personally, when all the rumors were surfacing, I went and made sure I was pre-gaming to go out. I turned on my phone AEW Rampage because the rumors were so strong that CM Punk was going to come back. CM Punk is my second favorite wrestler of all time. Shawn Michaels is the guy who, like, behind the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels was kind of the guy who got me into pro wrestling. Shawn Michaels will forever be my favorite. I don't care if people say he's overrated or if he's a dick or any of that stuff. I basically know that all the backstage stuff. I know he was a terrible person backstage for a while. Like
Yeah.
I know that. But in the ring, he entertained the crap out of me, and I love going and watching his old stuff. So he's always my favorite. CM Punk, though, I got into really got into wrestling. Like I had my first initial how I got into wrestling was more SmackDown based stuff like that. Straight Edge Society is kind of when I was really getting into SmackDown, and then when my mom finally got cable and I was able to start watching Raw, it was right before, it was kind of near the end of the summer of Punk, right before Survivor Series when he won the WWE championship. So tail end of the summer of Punk, right basically after Money in the Bank, probably that August or September is when I started watching Raw, and CM Punk was immediately like 100% set. Like he was my favorite at the time, second favorite of all time. I was so I'm not even ashamed to say this. Rampage, I cried. Like
Oh, I don't blame you.
I started tearing up. Like it was just like, holy crap, he's actually back. I texted my mom. My mom hates pro wrestling. She supports that I like it. She thinks it's stupid. But when I
Yeah.
texted her, Mom, CM Punk is back. Holy crap, Mom, I'm crying. She was just like, that's awesome. Like she was just like, she was so happy for me because she knew how much it meant to me and stuff like that. So I was really looking forward to this match. It made Darby Allin look like $1,000,000.
Yeah.
CM Punk, after 7 years and a couple of years of getting his ass kicked in the octagon, he looked fantastic. It wasn't 5 stars, but it was
No.
exactly what it needed to be. It was
No, yeah,
exactly what it needed to be.
it was phenomenal. I don't really there were, like you said, it wasn't the perfect match. It was great though. It really was great. It was showing the veteran against the newcomer. Darby was wrestling Punk style in the beginning, very technical, and I love that. I didn't know this before, that Punk and Darby Allin recreated. I think it was like 4 or 5 spots from when X Pac was the 1, 2, 3 kid when he was fighting Bret Hart. There are, if I'll try to send you the link if you haven't seen it on Twitter, I think it was, or Instagram, and they recreated the one, the armbar, the chicken wing spot. Bret backs him up against the ropes, rolls him over. Darby still has him in the chicken wing. Bret Hart and 1, 2, 3 Kid did that back in the day. Darby Allin jumping off the top of the turnbuckle, doing the senton onto Punk outside the ring. Same thing, Hart and Kid back in the day. So like just that little thing of the veteran fighting the newcomer because he knows the newcomer is gonna come up. And Darby's pretty big in the company already, so it's kind of hard to see he's a newcomer, but he's a young guy, so I can appreciate the touch to that.
One thing that the broadcasters said, which I thought was really cool, was Punk's last match was 7 years ago, which I watched and I was pissed off because it was the Royal Rumble 2014. I was pissed off when it happened because it was Kane, who had been eliminated from the match, pulling Punk out of the match. And I remember just watching, I'm just like, I was pissed off because I was like, that's dumb. Punk was still a big name in 2014. Winning the Royal Rumble? Probably not, but
Yeah.
still a big name. And that was the Royal Rumble that Batista won, which everyone was pissed about. Like, I mean, I didn't mind, but like I understood. Like, I wanted Roman to win that year. Like, Roman was red hot at that point, but obviously it was Batista's to win. But like the fact that that's how Punk was eliminated, that was his last match. I get like, and but then that year, if I heard them correctly, which I think I did, that year was Darby Allin's first professional wrestling match. So the year that Punk not retired, but the year Punk left pro wrestling was when Darby Allin got into pro wrestling, which made that match, like that part just made it so much cooler.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, that's incredible. That's insane. But to go back to the match, I mean, really, that first GTS, I gotta say, of Darby rolling out of the ring, that sort of instinctual moment that like, shit, he got me, gotta roll out. It's that the little things again where it's that storytelling, man. AEW storytelling in a match is just so good. They know how to reel you in, how to get you into every single moment, how to raise your hopes up, and all of a sudden they're gone. To see, you think the match is going to end there? Not a chance. I thought the ending to the match was phenomenal. It was perfectly well done. That final GTS was perfect. Punk doing the go to sleep thing. Haven't seen that in so long. I mean,
it was
man,
just
it was
the entire crowd
great.
yelling, "It's clobbering time!" Got it for me. That sent
That
chills.
was great.
It was
Yeah, exactly.
great.
I got chills down my back just by you saying that because it was so good.
And it was awesome. And then I think one cool moment for me was when he shook Sting's hand at the end of the match.
Oh yeah.
I think because I mean, to my knowledge, they've never done any, like they've never been in the same company at the same time before, because Sting came after he left. And
I want to talk about that.
and I don't I just don't think they've. I mean, even when you go back to early 2000s, I don't. But it's just that part was cool for me, and that was kind of just surreal.
Yeah.
But the next match, we're not even going to talk about it. But it was
a squash.
It was again, it was one of those. It was exactly what it needed to be. I think it just needed to kind of calm the audience down between CM Punk and the main event. I mean, Paul White, big show. Paul White did Paul White things, and I think one thing, that's just one comment I'm going to make. I hate that he was announced no more BS Paul White. That's not a moniker. That's a cool tagline for him. That's not something that you introduce him as. You introduce him as Paul White. Like, I think the fact that it was no more BS Paul White. It's just like, nah, he's just Paul White. Like, I get there's no more. Like, that's clever. Like, it was a clever T-shirt. I got it right. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, but that's not a moniker that you introduce him as. I just found that dumb.
Yeah.
Moving on. The main event. I mean, I don't know how deep we want to dive into this. It was great. I mean, Christian Cage is doing things that people probably didn't think he'd be doing, and I think everyone just appreciates that he's back in pro wrestling, whether or not it's going to be for a long time.
Right.
I mean, because he is the Impact World Champion. So I wonder how they're going to get that off of him. But I think it's just so cool that him and Edge made their returns, and they're kind of just like they're back. Like, you thought both of them were going to be done. Edge is having some of his best work that he's ever had. Him versus Seth Rollins was my favorite match from SummerSlam. We can probably break that down some other time, but it was just fantastic. Or Christian versus Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega, obviously considered one of the best in the world. In the matches I've seen of his, there's maybe been one that I've been like, I've really liked. All the other ones, it's kind of just been like, it's just taking some getting used to this different style. But last night, I liked it. I knew Christian wasn't going to, like, there was no way Christian was going to win. There was a small part of me that I thought maybe, but I'm just like, there's no way they're going to give him both titles. It just doesn't make sense. But I was still, enjoying the match throughout.
Yeah, and to go back to, I'm going to nitpick a little bit. AEW's officiating.
It's so lackadaisical. Like that is something that when I would watch right at the beginning, it's just like, I mean, cool. Like, you're not as nitpicky, but come on.
You used 2 tables in the match. And also, they were going to count out Christian at one point, but when this is back to the MJF and Jericho match. They both went out of the ring and fought in the crowd, come back in, and then all of a sudden Jericho's out of the ring by himself and he's getting counted out. Like,
I've noticed this.
What?
I mean, even the same thing in WWE. WWE officiating has gotten to the point where it's just like they're just like, come on, you got to back. Like, it takes 30 seconds for them to say you got to get back into the ring, and then it's one. And I'll even be like sitting and I love making fun of wrestling as I'm watching it. Like, I love it's just a joy that I have. Like, I'm not complaining that it's bad, but I just find joy in finding the nitpicky. When it's officials doing that kind of shit, it's just like, okay, he's been out of the ring for like a minute and you're just starting to count.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, with those table spots, like, I loved them. I love the table spots. If you're going to call it a no DQ match without it being a no DQ match, like, whatever. It is what it is. But I like the table spots. I think Christian legitimately got hurt on one of those. I think when he was jumping on Omega, or it might have been vice versa. Regardless, I like those spots. I'm always a big fan of table spots. Again, I thought the match was really well done. I liked Omega's finisher off the top rope. I can't remember what it's called because it's a Japanese word and it's hard for me to pronounce because I'm a little white boy. But I'm a big, I just can't think of what the hell it's called, but it's a dope move. I like the finish to it. I thought it was fun.
It's the Yoshi-Goroshi or whatever, right?
Yoshi-Goroshi, yes, thank you. Man, I can never get that right. I've tried so many times. And anyway, but yes, I'm a big fan of the match. I like I like their styles. I like Omega. He's fine. He's not my favorite. Again, a very good promo.
Very
Not
good
maybe
promo.
the most. Yeah, not the most interesting to watch wrestle sometimes. I thought it was a great match. But I'm also a big Christian Cage fan, so that helps. But yeah, I think they both put on a phenomenal match, and um, again, that's my little nitpick was just the refereeing. Again, I've seen that as one of the biggest complaints about AEW is their officiating is very, wishy washy. So, but again, you got to think it's pro wrestling. You can't take it entirely too seriously.
Yeah. And then after the match, the second the Elite
Oh,
hit the ring, I'm just like, something's happening. I didn't think both were going to happen.
no, I didn't
We
either.
had texted somewhat before / during the show that Bryan Danielson was basically all but confirmed.
Yeah.
I thought that's what this was going to be. The lights went out, and I'm just like, I wonder how this is going to be because he's not much of a lights go out type guy. And then the music hit, and the yellow showed up on the screens, and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. And the reason I'm not sounding more excited, I'm excited. I
Yeah.
love him. I love Adam Cole. I love Adam Cole. Ever since the first episode of NXT on USA back in the fall of 2019, it was Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle. Loved that match. That was my first experience. I had known who Adam Cole was. I had followed an old account on Instagram who was a big worldwide wrestling fan. I knew Adam Cole was good. I had seen some of his highlights, but ever since that match in 2019, I was an Adam Cole guy, 100%. I loved the Undisputed Era. I have an Undisputed Era t-shirt. Like, loved it. The reason I'm not excited and the only thing I'm pissed off about is how in the hell as the WWE do you let a guy like Adam Cole leave? We'll get to it we'll get to another guy in just a minute, but how? Because you let nitpicky shit like Twitch get in the way of it.
And now they banned Twitch completely from wrestlers. Like they
Like
up down down's gone because of that shit.
Like and you just like. And I was even reading stuff today. Adam Cole loved how he was treated in WWE. He had no complaints there. But obviously, when you see how other people are being treated, you have how much you love video games being taken away from you, and just all of your best friends are over here. It's kind of a no-brainer when your contract comes up. But when you have a talent like that, a draw like that, you give them the world to come or to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that they could pay him $5 over here and he's probably just going to go over there unless you're giving him something better. And that's the one thing that when he came out, I was nothing but happy. But there was a little bit in the back where I'm just like, God damn it. Because it means he's not in the WWE anymore. And that just kind of upset. And there's so many good matches that are about to happen in All Elite Wrestling with him. But it just made me sad because that's a big one where it's just like, okay, WWE is really in a bad place right now.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's lightning in a bottle when you have a heel that's over. Like right now, Roman Reigns is my example. Everyone hates Roman, but it's in the good way of it's good heat, where he is a heel. You're supposed to hate him, but he's over. People are in love with him. It's the same thing with when Orton was a prime heel. People loved to hate him. Adam Cole's the same thing. Everyone was doing the Adam Cole baby thing, even when they hated his guts, but he was that over. And
like the Undisputed Era, that faction, they were doing the worst stuff you could possibly imagine, and everyone loved it.
Yeah. And sorry to harp on Orton because Orton's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but he was in the Legend Killer kicking all their heads off I was loving it because I hated it at the same time. Like, you don't just throw away something like that. That does not happen often. Luckily, they have Roman, like I said. That's great. It's just the fact that he was your biggest draw in your developmental brand, and you let him go because WWE lied to them. They said they're independent workers, but then you can't go on Twitch and make their own money. Like, you are just toying with people, and that is not how it works. WWE is not the same. You are not the only wrestling company in the world now. You have other competition where people can go and make good money and be who they want to be, whether it's an ROH off national televised networking or AEW or whatever. Like, you just don't you squander that opportunity, and now you're going to face the repercussions by your competition getting that much better and joining one of the best factions in wrestling right now. The Elite. I know you're not a big Young Bucks guy, but I'm a huge fan of them. I like Omega. I like
Oh, I love the
yeah,
Elite. I love the concept of the Elite. Like it
or the wrestling
works.
I guess is what I was
It it
going towards. But
the Good Brother. I love the Good Brothers. I wish they were treated
yeah,
better in
Gallows and Anderson
WWE.
are dope.
Uh, but like yeah, it. I mean, I'm so excited because there's nothing more than I would have wanted than him with the Elite. Like, that's just going to be,
It just
I,
works
it's
so
just going to
perfect.
work. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen with that, but I'm just pissed off as well. Um,
Yeah, rightfully so.
and we talk about loyalty. We kind of talked about, you know, how much Adam Cole liked it. Speaking of a guy, Brian Danielson. Now everyone kind of knew this was happening. Punk teased it. It was happening. I didn't think it was gonna, like, it's just like Adam Cole. Cool. He's the big surprise at the end of the show. Oh, he's siding with the Elite. Great way to go off the air. Like, it's awesome. Everyone's happy. And then Kenny Omega is doing his goodbye, which I have watched about 5,000 times. And
Yes,
then,
sir.
what is Flight of the Valkyries? I think that's what the
Yeah,
song's called.
yeah.
Which I saw a tweet. Brian Gewirtz, you know who Brian Gewirtz is?
Yeah. Old
Brian
WWE
Gewirtz
writer.
tweeted out um, that, they're probably thinking right now, maybe we should stop using public music or whatever, because
Yeah,
you have Cult of Personality. Now you have Adam Cole's theme song, which they kind of played like a derivative of in NXT. And now you have Flight of the Valkyries, which has been used since the early 2010s by Daniel Bryan, now Brian Danielson. And it's just, when that comes out, you're getting the biggest pop. And he came out and
oh
he hit the
man.
ring. And him, I understand a little bit more. And one
Yeah,
thing that I read today that makes me okay with it is he said that WWE gave him a great offer that allowed him to go do other things as well. Um, two big reasons, and I don't think these were the two main reasons, but I saw these were kind of just two big factors. How AEW handled Brody Lee's death. That was a big
yeah.
reason why he came, which it's like, yeah, I
Loved
mean,
that.
okay, cool. And obviously everyone knows the connection between Brian Danielson and Brody Lee, with the Wyatt family and all that kind of stuff. Um, and then, oh God. And then, sorry, I'm just having a little bit of gears turning a little bit. And then, but he said that Vince was just a little too protective, which obviously Brian's got his neck problems, all that stuff, his head problems. It's understandable why Vince would be protective,
Totally.
but he being Brian knew his limitations and what he could and couldn't do, and he knew he could push the envelope a little bit more. And I guess Vince just wasn't wanting that. He didn't want to put him in that position, which obviously AEW will let you do whatever the hell you want to do. So, I mean, and that's understandable. And I'm upset because obviously he was such a big draw in WWE. I was a big
Oh
Daniel
yeah.
Bryan guy. I don't, there's not really doubt in my mind that I think he might make a return to WWE before all is said and done. I think he might make a brief stint or something. But I think the majority of the twilight of his career is going to be with AEW, and I'm happy for it.
Yeah, no, I again, two phenomenal signings for AEW, two of the best promos in the business, two of the greatest wrestlers that were in WWE within the last 10 years. I mean, and now they're going to have so much more creative freedom. There's a plethora of wrestlers they can go through now and experience a great match with, because they're going to put on great matches. Bryan Danielson might not wrestle every single week, but the matches he will have a couple times, within a couple months span, they're going to be fucking bangers. They're going to be so good. And Adam Cole is still so fresh. I think honestly, him, and maybe it's because he just fought Punk, but him and Darby Allin, pronouns, Adam Cole and Darby Allin, I think they could have one hell of a match. I love their styles. They're both very different, but at the same time, it's two young guys looking to make their names right now, and they're just fun. If there's one thing I could read, I don't know if you follow Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful Select, another wrestling site. When All Out was off the air, Bryan Danielson was talking to the crowd, and they were yelling, and he's like, "All right, I know you guys want to go home. I'm going to make this short." And they booed the shit out of him because they kept going. Usually there's that chant that goes, "Fight forever."
Yeah.
They were going, "Talk forever." Da, 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 da. It was great. You could just see he was overly joyed in the whole thing. To read directly from Sean Rossap, Daniel Bryan says he loved working in WWE and was grateful, but still left. The reasons why were the talent, especially the ones who came from day one. So the first reason was he wants fans to thank day one AEW stars for enticing former WWE names over. He says the second reason is the AEW fan base, because seriously, man, he was saying how much he loved that they sing every single person's theme song that comes out, whether it's Jericho's, whether it's Lucha, God damn it, wrong names. God damn it.
Lucha Bros or Jungle Express or Jurassic Express.
Yeah. See, it's hard.
Jurassic Express. That's right. It's Tarzan Boy by Baltimora. I didn't realize that was his entrance song until about a couple months ago, because I knew Tarzan Boy by Baltimora. Like, I just knew that song, and I loved that song because it's just a one-hit wonder and it's so catchy. And then when I found out it was Jungle Boy's entrance, I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's just perfect. And the third reason Bryan Danielson said he came to AEW was because he's a wrestler, and quote, he's here to goddamn wrestle. And it's just, he was, to even go more into that, I remember him saying, he's like, "I am a wrestler at heart. No matter, even when I was told not to say wrestling because WWE says you are a sports entertainer, he has always said wrestling when he wasn't supposed to, because he is a wrestler at heart. That is who he is. He is a true professional wrestling fan, and it shows because there is, again, so much passion and so much heart into it, and he pours that in every promo, every match, whether he's winning or losing, the heel or the face. He has always been a consistently good factor in WWE, whether he was with the Wyatt family, Team Hell No, like you said, WrestleMania 30, right, with the triple threat after facing Triple H. Yeah, I mean, everything, man. He has always been so damn good, and that's just why I'm so excited for him to be where he is now. He needed a fresh paint, coat of paint. He just needed I almost said paint a coat because they say that I'm friggin' something to wrestle.
We're just taking everything from Something to Wrestle. We love that freaking podcast.
It's so good.
We love you, Conrad. God damn.
I love the Jim Cornette thing. It always gets me. But yeah, no, a big fan of these two signings. I think that's incredible. 3 signings. I got to include Ruby Soho in there because she's incredible. The women's division is so much better. The tag team division is phenomenal from top to bottom in AEW. I just don't think there's an unimpressive person on AEW's roster that I saw. I mean, like Paul White's obviously not going to have a bunch of matches soon. He's going to have these little one-offs. He has a squash match, whatever. Although I got to say, when I was at Dynamite and I saw Billy Gunn hit Big Show Paul White with a chair on the back, I think it was Dynamite or Rampage. Pops. I'm a big Billy Gunn fan, so seeing him do that, it took me back to old '90s clips I used to watch, and it just, again, big Billy Gunn guy. Famouser is a top move that nobody does anymore. Shout out Dolph Ziggler, gets me to pop every time. Little side tangent, sorry.
Well, I mean, this has been a lot of fun. We talked a lot longer than I thought we were going to talk, and it was absolutely incredible. It was a lot more fun. Well, it wasn't a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be fun, but this was. I wasn't sure how it was going to be, and this was. I mean, you and I will shoot texts at each other occasionally during wrestling, and that's fun. And now that we got to talk for 2 hours, 2 hours about it has just been so awesome as well. I mean, who knows where we're going with this? Who knows how we're going to do it? But I mean, heck, I'm not against doing this every so often, but hey, that's Phil Giovanni. I'm David Coyer. This has been two guys just talking wrestling. And if you're listening to this or stumbled across this, we hope you enjoyed. And if we continue to do this, we hope you tag along for the ride. But for now, we'll see you next time.
Shaka Khan. Can't take that, can I?
Might as well steal everything else, right?
Right. I had to throw one more.